Good afternoon and welcome back to the Porch 321. We appreciate you viewing with us this afternoon. We thought we'd cover another topic for you, and that would be seller expectations. My colleagues with me today are,
Linda Hollington.
And Sylvia Ford.
and we're here to bring you just a couple of comments that we've come across over the past 3 weeks in reference to seller expectations. Sellers, unfortunately, at this point in time, are realizing that we still are in a seller's market, but it's not 2021. Correct, Sylvia?
Right. And we're on a delicate tightrope here as realtors because we get comps, and some of those comps may show a higher sale price. And of course, we always want to go for the highest because we want to get the best for our customers and our listing. But you also have to take into consideration this is a very different market, as Sherry just mentioned, and our buyers out there are having a real difficult time with the interest rates being up, and they're just jumping through as many hoops as they are. So this is a real tightrope for the seller and also the realtor, as far as I'm concerned. It's easy to go up too high, and then boy, we've got real problems with what Linda you were seeing. If you're staying on the market?
Well, I know the days trending in the last few months for the sold properties have been, it's taking 60 days to sell the majority of them. So I think it was like 63% sold in the first 60 days. That's way longer than we're used to. Now that's only 63%. So that means the rest of them go longer than that. They go 90 days and up to 120 days. Mm-hmm. So, but the majority of them will sell if they're priced right in 60 days. That's what we're seeing in the last few months. I haven't checked. I'll be checking. My next 30-day report will be the second week in September to see how we're doing right at the moment. But it hasn't changed much as far as I can tell. In fact,
and that's one of the issues. You know, the sellers are thinking that, well, you know, I'm going to put my house on the market. It's going to be sold in 30 days, you know, and this is going to be the end of that. And unfortunately, there's a lot of factors that have to come to play. And one of the things that I've pointed out is you got to look at the interest rates. I know we're not interest rate driven because everybody needs to live somewhere. So, and you date the rate. You don't marry that rate, you know, because you can always change that rate later. However, let's think about the payment. You know, when you're purchasing a home that's over $350,000 and you've got a 7% interest rate, that's a pretty hefty mortgage payment. Then you factor in the insurance and taxes. Now, everybody knows about the insurance. That's kind of almost like a bad word. The insurance has gotten so high. So with the insurance factoring into that payment, you know, their mortgage payment's pretty hefty. So a lot of people are waiting because they think the rates are going to go down, which is unfortunate, a misconception. Or they're hesitant on jumping into that pond because they don't want to have to pay that exorbitant mortgage rate, not understanding that you can always change that mortgage. You can always refinance. But you can't necessarily find the right house. If you find the right house in the right location, you know, it may not come about again. So even though the interest rate might be 7%, you need to dive in and take it now and change that rate later. But a lot of that, you know, is not necessarily understood from a buyer's perspective, and from a seller's perspective. You know, they're looking at getting the maximum price and the quickest turnaround, and that doesn't always happen, right?
No. And they've got to realize that if we priced it incorrectly,
yeah,
that we got to do a quick drop and a significant drop.
Now, and we've all learned that.
We did a drop of 10,000. Maybe we should have done 15,000. I mean, that's a give and take. The owner decided to do 10. So we'll see
you're really hurting yourself with that high price, because the first 30 days, everybody considers your home a new listing, so they're very interested in it.
Right.
Unless it's priced too high, then they don't want to even look at it. By the time you drop it after the first 30 days, now they're wondering what's wrong with the house because it didn't sell. Right. And then it still might not come and have a look at it because it's not new anymore. So
Right.
you're really kind of shooting yourself in the foot to not get the price right.
And that's exactly right on point there, Linda. That's
we
exactly
can-
what's happening.
we can look at your neighborhood. We can tell you what your competition is,
Mhm.
what you're up against when you're trying to sell your house. And that all has to be evaluated. And it's very important to start out on the right foot.
And the other thing to point out is it's not necessarily a price per square foot. I've worked with sellers that, go by the price per square foot. I mean, you have to look at it from a buyer's eye. When a buyer comes to look at a home, they're looking at, do I have to do any work? Is it turnkey? Can I just walk in and move in? Does it have the appliances I want? And remember, again, we go back to the same topic. Kitchens and bathrooms are what sells homes. So when the buyer walks in, they're looking at the fact of, well, how do I have to make any repairs or do I have to make any upgrades as soon as I go in? Because if they do, they have to factor that into the cost, So it's not a price per square foot, it's priced competitively based on what is selling in your market. And that includes upgrades, right?
And that brings up an excellent point, because a lot of times I'm not one that things need to be updated as far as kitchens and bathrooms, because they're okay as long as the house is clean and safe and secure and whatnot. But these new homes on the market, new builds,
Yeah.
they're pricing them, baby, and they're taking all our buyers and they're going to new builds. So that's another concern. You've got to look at that new build competition and where they're priced at. Because
And that's another point. If as a seller, if your home definitely needs to be priced right. That's the biggest problem I'm seeing, is that the sellers think that we can price it 30,000 above market because it's a seller's market, and that's definitely not the case. But the new builders are also offering incentives, so that's something the sellers need to consider also. Perhaps maybe we need to offer an incentive towards buying down the interest rate or towards closing costs, and factor that into the price. However, again, like Linda says, the first 15 days or so that your house is on the market, that's when you're going to get the most traction. If you're not attractive right from the onset, you're going to lose that, I guess, rush, so to speak. You're going to lose that initial advertisement, and that's unfortunately what I'm seeing is happening, is that a lot of folks are putting their homes on the market, but if they're trying to compete with a brand new build, let's face it, the buyers are going to go to the new build first. Yeah.
I agree.
so price it competitively.
Yes, listen to your realtor. Your realtor is looking at the market conditions, looking at what is selling in your neighborhood. What is the price point? Not per square foot, but what do you have to offer that nobody else does? What's going to attract that buyer to your house over your neighbors? So listen to what they're telling you, because trust me, we've been in a ton of houses and we can tell you what looks good and what doesn't, right?
Right. You have to know your competition.
Yes, yes. All right, well, thank you very much again for coming to our YouTube channel on the Porch 321. And again, please like us and subscribe. We appreciate all the subscriptions on YouTube and the like us on Facebook. Have a great afternoon, everybody, and please stay safe, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.